G'day viewers, my name's Graham Stevenson and I'd like to invite you to come on a journey of creativity and learning and adventure through the series Colour in Your Life. There's an artist in every family throughout the world, and lots of times there's an artist deep down inside all of us as well. So grab your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, uncles and mums and dads and come and see how some of the best artists do what they do.
Well, hi guys. Well, we are in Kingston in Massachusetts today, and we are with an award-winning watercolor artist, Mr. Tony Visco. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for coming.
Great to be here.
My pleasure.
Great to be here. This man is an amazing artist. You've got a fantastic background as far as your career was concerned, as you started out as a graphic designer.
I did, yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, your whole life's been just basically creating.
It's been business. My business has been art all my life.
Wow.
It's been commercial, but it's still been in the business of art.
Yeah, and you're involved in media and advertising with that as well.
Absolutely. I spent a lot of time in it, and actually from being on the board just as a designer, I gradually got into the marketing process, started writing headline copy as well, so I wrote motivational copy for a lot of the work that was done.
So what about transiting from that career as a graphic designer into a full-time career as a professional artist? How did that come about?
Well, Graham, I've always been painting.
Yeah.
But it's always been in the background as a painter. And what ended up happening is that my love for painting sort of slowly, gradually increased.
Yeah.
Being tied to clients slowly decreased.
Yeah.
It's just what happened is that I finally retired from the commercial world and decided to approach this full time. I paint in oil, I paint in acrylics, I'm a graphite artist, I work heavily in graphite, pastels. There's not generally a media that I don't touch, but I have a passion for watercolor, especially wet into wet watercolor.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what we're going to be doing today, and you've actually got a draft sketch that you've made out.
I did.
And this is, I mean, it's a beautiful area. I mean, this whole area is just a fantastic area, and you know, lots of water scenes, and that's what we're going to be doing today is a water scene that you obviously captured down the road. So I'm going to step out of shot. We're going to let you do what you need to do, and I'll be asking a lot of questions because, as I said, it really is quite an amazing place, and you know, we're just really, really happy to be here. But I'll step out of shot and you go for your life. Okay, Tony, what are the paints that you actually use to do your watercolours?
Well, Graham, let me tell you, I've been using Winsor Newton colors as long as I've been painting. I do use some Schmenke, I do use Daniel Smith, and I do also use Hobein, which I love as a paint. But primarily, all my colors have been Winsor Newton. That's the primary.
And what about your paintbrushes?
My brushes consist of a number of different things, if I may. I use Strathmore brushes, and I use these wonderful synthetic brushes by Dynasty. These are their black and gold series, and they're a wonderful brush. I've been using this stuff for quite a while. So we're going to get into first laying in some wash. I'm starting with Cerulean Blue, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm actually working on a soft fibered paper. We're working on a BFK Rives, or BKF Rives. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start laying in the background with a loose wash of paint here. And as I go through this process, I'm going to start to move down a bit. We're going to cut around all of these figures, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to basically work my way down. And as I get down here, I'm going to gradually get warmer as I get into the water. And I'm getting a lot of loose water in here right now. And I want to do something else here. I'm cutting this area in, and this is all going to dry a lot lighter. As I come down here, I'm going to add a little bit of my opera, and I'm bringing the water in down in this area here, if you can watch. Now I got to leave a lot of white in here, so as I paint this, I have to be cognizant of that. It's important that we make sure that when we're cutting around the piece, that we leave enough white around there so that eventually when I finish this piece, I'll have the white that I want left on the paper itself.
And you was going to say the paper that you use is a little bit more fibrous than normal.
Yeah, this paper is very soft, very porous paper. I use that because it has a nice consistency. It gives me some nice texture. Rather than a hard paper where I'm going to get a hard line all the time, the soft fibers of this paper is what I like most about this. It lends itself to a wet into wet watercolor. it has characteristics in the paper itself that allow the pigment to work its magic. So now that I've got this sort of done in this area, and I'm letting that dry a bit, I have to come back up here and I'm going to put in some brown in the top. These are all wooden pilings over here, so and it's going to be a dark area, Graham. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in some of that brown cast a little bit up in this area, and we're going to start to work out my dark areas. I'm using burnt sienna to bring this in, and it's still wet, so I'm letting it just do its own thing. I'm not doing a lot of pigment yet on this stuff. I just want this to be loose and wet and free. So we're just going to go back in here and we're going to start to paint some of this in here.
Well, you've got a lovely piece here as well. I mean, obviously in your travels you get to see a lot of the world, but this one's called a Parisian Stroll. Very striking painting with the brilliance of the building just sort of popping out through the perspective there. It's wonderful.
That was a nice piece that I did. Actually, that took a prize recently in one of the shows. I was real pleased about it because it's a very loose painting. Okay, so right now I settled it up and let it dry a bit, and I'm going back in. You notice some of the browns, everything was washy, loosely done, and I'm going to come back in here now, and I'm going to start to build some of the cooler areas. I'm going to go into my purples, mix a little bit of opera and my cerulean blue over here together, and we're going to come up with a nice warm violetish kind of color in here. And I'm going to start building the darks now in the background, so that's what I'm doing here. You notice I'm working with a flat brush for the most part here right now too. And I tend to do that. I tend to work mostly with flat brushes. And as I said, with the soft fibers paper, it's just absolutely wonderful, the kinds of stuff that you can create doing this. What I've decided to do is to build the darks up in the background a little bit here so that you can start to see the white against it. Where you want your audience to look, which will be the darkest dark against the lightest light, is important in a painting. You're driving your audience into that area. So here's my white and light areas right here. These are going to be darker. So just to give you some idea as to how I approach this when I think this through. So all of the stuff that's in the background here is going to go darker. Now I've got some small lines back here that I can see, and I got pilings that are sticking out back here, but this is sort of like a slow build. Still working wet, still working very loose, but working around here. I don't generally mask. I try to cut around. I try to use the white of the paper as much as possible. So it's important that I understand this stuff as I go in, and I can start to build this a little bit at a time. It's a slow build. You want to make sure that you're cutting around the proper area.
Now, one thing you love to do, Tony, within your work is to tell a story. You're a storyteller with art, and you've got a piece called Food for Thought. It's of a little Haitian girl being fed some food. Obviously, they've suffered pretty badly down there because of the earthquakes and things, but very expressive and just a great story there straight away.
I really fell in love with that piece. I have a friend of mine that went down with a missionary, and somebody took a shot of him feeding this little girl, and it was so expressive, it was so wonderful. It told the story, and I really fell in love with the little girl. It was just absolutely incredible. You know, she came to life for me in that watercolor, and it was just wonderful. She more than he, but the combination of the two and his reaching out and feeding this little Haitian girl was just absolutely magical to me. And I try to do stories with a lot of my works. I do a lot of old trucks and old broken down boats and stuff like that. It's just a lot of fun to do. So what I'm going to start to do right now then is as I start, I'm going to start getting into the figures a little bit and start to get those. And I'm going to use a smaller brush to get into those figures. And we're going to end up starting to put a little bit of color into this. So we're in color, this is color in your life, so we're going to throw a little color into the figures over here. And we're going to come in here and we're going to just start to put in some light tones in these areas here. Flesh tones. I'm going to start out with flesh tones, and then I'm going to go to I'm going to introduce some violet in there in a minute. But these are the dogs. Put a little bit of value in there. Now, you heard me say value. Interestingly enough, I think it's very important that people understand that value is probably one of the most important parts of painting. That's what creates the interest. The color is an adjunct to that, but value is so important.
And you were discussing before about the timing of watercolor as well.
Incredibly. You have to be aware and cognizant of a moist paper, a wet paper, and the amount of pigment on the brush that you have. As a matter of fact, one of the things that you really should understand is when you pick up pigment, you should basically be taking most of the water out of the brush so the brush is damp, so that if you're going to pick up pigment, you pick up more pigment than water, and then you apply that to the paint.
Now, in your past as a younger man, you served your country with distinction in Vietnam. You did 2 tours
Yes, I did.
of Vietnam, which was pretty amazing. And you actually painted the pictures called South China Sea Pushover, which was actually one of the last Hueys
It is.
that they pushed into the sea, wasn't
Yeah, it actually is. When everybody was vacating Vietnam, when all of them, they were all over there, that was, the helicopters were running back and forth and bringing everybody onto the ships. And there was that was the very last helicopter that they tossed overboard.
You've got another piece called Beached, which is an old trawler that's obviously been beached. What's the story with that?
Yeah, the old trawler came up here on Plymouth Beach. There was a few years back, and it was there for probably a good month because they were waiting for the tide to come back up and be able to take that out. So I decided to do a painting of it, and it was just incredible because that's one of those lovely old rusted out hulls that I love to do, and it was just a very interesting piece for me.
Even the Duxbury Channel markers, which is the channel markers for obviously where the trawlers go out as well. That's a great piece. Lots of colour in it, really expressive. Lots of geometry. It's wonderful. Now, you're also involved in a number of the watercolour art societies in the area, actually even nationally, but you're involved with the New England Watercolour Society, the Copley Art Society out of Boston, the Situate Arts Association, and you're a Russell Gallery member that they're in Plymouth as well.
I've been fortunate enough. I'm a signature member of the New England Watercolour Society. You got to get in 4 times, 1 national show, 3 regionals within a 10-year period. So they give us a little bit of time to do that. And as far as the rest goes, the Copley, all of these you need to be juried in. You can't get into any of this stuff unless you're juried into them.
Okay.
So that's a kick because it just helps create a little bit more ambiance, I guess, for my work. It helps to create a little bit more identification, giving it some credence and credibility, I suppose, for other artists.
But it also tells you who's serious about their work as well.
Well, that's true. And I've been a signature member. I've been grandfathered in down here at the Plymouth Center for the Arts, formerly the Plymouth Guild. And one of the nice things is that I work in all kinds of media, so I was juried in for everything down there. So that's kind of a nice thing. It's not just watercolor, but it's oils, acrylics, all kinds of good stuff.
You've done a fair amount of travelling, and you've been to Saudi Arabia as well, and there's one piece that you've got which is really detailed, and it's a whole bunch of pots and pans called potpourri.
Yeah, there was a challenge for me.
I bet.
That was one of those interesting paintings. I don't usually take a month to do a painting, but in that case, that's one that I did, and I had to do it a little at a time because of the amount of pots and pans in there. It was very demanding for me to paint each of those so that they were very realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it took a little bit of time, and I did it as a challenge, and fortunately, I entered it into a major show, and it took first prize, so I was really pleased about that.
Well done. And there's another one that you've got called Plumage, and actually the lady on the left in this is called Dolores. She's a friend of yours.
Yeah, actually, Dolores is a friend of mine, and she contacted me not too long ago and asked me if I was the person that she grew up with. I don't know how she found me on Facebook, told me that she did dinner theater, and she sent a photograph out of her and her girlfriend with a shot. It was a little bit blurry, hard to see, but I thought it would make a nice painting, and it did.
You've got a piece called Waterfront Homes, Provincetown, and you've got a couple of pieces like this, but they're really distinctive, and they really are Tony Visco. They're wonderful pieces too.
Thank you very much. I'm always experimenting. One of the things about staying in a safe zone is you never learn anything. If you paint what you feel you know all the time and it's always safe, you never excel, you never learn, you never go beyond that particular style. So what I try to do is to reach out all the time and get into a situation where I'm painting a little bit more differently. I keep evolving my work, I guess, and I think that's good. I think the idea is to constantly continue to challenge yourself. So we're going to take my 1-inch brush, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to start to do my water. So we're going to come in here, get some darks around this area, and they're going to go blues and blue browns, and nice and rich and vibrant. So we're going to just start to very simply move this in the right direction toward our finished piece. Okay, and this is wet. And we want nice broad strokes over here. I'm going to re-wet a lot of this stuff because it's dry. So we're just going to work our way into this water so that we have some nice feeling. We're going to come around, sort of circle-ish area here. We'll start to put all of this in.
Now, Tony, you also are a well-known teacher in the area as well, all over the place, in fact. Now, if somebody would like to come and talk to you about workshops, what's the best website address that they can do that?
Well, they can go to my website, which is www.panthonyvisco.com. Now, what's going to happen is that it's going to bring you to a lot of my work. If they really want to talk about the teaching element, then they're going to have to call me directly or email me directly. And they can email me at tonyv, Tonyv @theartdude.com.
And you also do your own television
I do.
show on arts in the Massachusetts area.
Yeah, I do. We're on local access in a number of the different towns around here, and it's a lot of fun to do. I do these hour-long video demonstrations, educational demonstrations, and it works out real well. Actually, from those alone, I get a lot of people that are very interested in taking class. And I've got probably a dozen pieces that are up on my YouTube site.
So you're like the Bob Ross of Plymouth.
What's that?
Bob Ross of Plymouth.
yeah. God bless Bob Ross. I mean, he's done a lot for the art world, I tell you.
Sure did. Yeah, it's a beautiful area, popular for lobsters and
oh yeah.
Even some of your golf courses are regarded as world-class golf courses.
Yeah.
And, you've got a picture caught on the green that looks like it was a beautiful day and just chipping in on a par 4.
It is. Actually, that piece is done, it's actually Southers Marsh out here. It's just interesting that green happened to be close to the roadway, and I thought maybe it makes a nice painting. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually lift some of the painting, some of the pigments out and create some nice light areas. And that's basically what I generally will do rather than use masking tape or masking fluid on my paintings. And I find that if I lift it out, I can almost, as long as I don't use staining colors, I can pretty much get back to the white of the paper.
Mm-hmm. You really do like doing wet on wet.
I love wet on wet, yeah. I think that it's probably one of the most exciting ways in which to paint watercolor. So right here, I'm going to come up with, you're going to see this vibrant color. The browns I'm going to start to bring these brilliant warm browns in here into these pilings. And what I'm going to do is come down with some darks. So I've come up with a real nice feeling, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to come down with a little bit of dark under here, in this area here, and I'm going to marry those together. So with a little bit of water, I'm going to wash this down and bring this up.
Now you also exhibit in some of the galleries in the area as well, the Situate Front Street Gallery being one of them.
Yes. Yeah, we have a show going on over there, and I'm constantly there. I have a permanent amount of space over there that I change, and basically every 6 weeks we change it around. But I will always have work there. It's a wonderful gallery right downtown in Situate Harbor. The other thing is that I'm heavily involved locally in the Plymouth Center for the Arts. Now, the Plymouth Center for the Arts is a venue, is a wonderful area. And what's happened is that we as New England Watercolor Society members contracted with the Plymouth Center for the Arts for permanent space. So we will have, as New England Watercolor Society members, permanent space to hang in.
You also paint some of the lovely seascapes along the shoreline of this great state, Pastel Cove being one of them.
Yeah, that's up in Maine. That's really up in Drimmer-Scotter, Maine. Nice area.
It's very pretty.
It's a beautiful place, and it's very vibrant. A lot of art groups up there. It's a big center. New England really is a big center for the arts. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just try to get you to understand how to handle this water, and I want to give you an understanding of how to make it watery. So if we come in here and we lift some of this stuff out, you notice what I'm doing is I'm coming in here, I'm wetting the brush and lifting this stuff out, and I'm grading it. It's gradually going from white, or the white of the paper, I should say, into the color of the water. And you don't need much of this now. This is not, you can overwork this stuff to death. You got to be very careful about it. But just putting a few lines in here and there is just enough. And the idea behind this is to create the illusion of movement of water and reflection from the boat. So even with the reflection of the boat, I've got some linear stuff that's happening over here that I have to put back in. All right, you want to soften this up a bit. And the way to do reflections is to do a little S-curve, I guess, if nothing else. For instance, if you have a piling right here and you have to have some reflection in the water, you're going to S this down. You notice what I'm doing is just giving it a little bit of a wavy look. That gives you the reflection that you want in the water. So we'll take a little bit of darker color, a little bit of brown, come over here and do the same thing, okay? See, a little wavy action. Maybe you want to put in a nice rich dark that's going to come along right here. See, something like that, okay? A little bit of a nice rich dark. And you might be chasing these darks because, again, this paper it's not static, it's dynamic. It's always drying, it's always moving. You're creating the illusion. Well, you know what we are? We're magicians. We're doing a magic show here. We want to convince you that this is water. And that's the whole process. It's just a whole big illusion. The effect is I'm looking at a boat in water with pilings and a pier. And that's the whole idea behind this.
Well, you've shown us some fantastic techniques today, Tony, and we've really enjoyed being here. It's been incredible. And due to the magic of television, we can show you the finished work that you've been working on. It looks spectacular as well, but thank you so much for having us in your studio today.
Well, thank you, Graham, for coming in. I'm really excited that you guys are here.
Well, guys, from Kingston in Massachusetts, fantastic day. Tony, that was wonderful.
Great. It was great having you here. Really.
Thanks so much for having us. Very, very talented man. We had a great day. Now, before we go, you've still got your workshops that you do.
I do. Yeah, I have those going on, and I'm teaching on a regular basis.
So your website address again is?
www.panthonyvisco.com.
And you've also got your own YouTube channel as well, which is pretty cool.
I do. So actually, you can just you can go to YouTube and just type in P. Anthony Visco, and I should pop up there. Absolutely. You have to remember that it's P. Anthony Visco, though, because there's other people that stole my name.
How inconvenient. But yes, a fantastic day, and we've had a great time. We've really enjoyed being on the east coast of America. It's just amazing. So, but you can also come and see all of this in colorinyourlife.com.au and go into our YouTube channel as well and subscribe. We've got a lot of people in there. Things are going really great these days. But we're going to head north again into Maine and film some wonderful people up there as well. But until we see you guys again, remember, from Massachusetts, make sure you put some colour in your life, and we'll see you again, guys. See you now.
See you later.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks for coming.